Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. My name is Clayton James, and today I wanted to make a video on my book of the week. But before I get into that, I wanted to talk about this challenge that I'm trying right now. So a couple of weeks ago I was watching some videos, and a lot of these videos have been popping up about read a book a day or read a book a week, and all these entrepreneurs and successful people read a lot, and I love reading. I thoroughly enjoy it, and I wanted to read more, so I decided that I'm going to read a book a week for the next year. And the first book that I picked was I Thought It Was Just Me by Brene Brown. And there's a couple of interesting things that I learned in this experience of getting through this book in the first week. So I'm not a very fast reader, and especially when it comes to books in the areas of expanding consciousness or personal development, I read them like textbooks and I take notes often, and so they usually take me much longer to read through than a normal fiction book would. And I came across this tip about speed reading, and the tip was to just read with your finger, and just move your finger faster if you want to read faster. And so I started doing that, but I had to kind of develop my own method because the sound of my finger moving across the paper was distracting me, and also like the resistance of the friction of my finger rubbing against the paper. So I got a Uniball pen and I just keep it closed, and then I just started doing this, and I was blown away at how effective this works. I have to read a lot faster, and usually when I read, I will read something and then equate it to an area of my life to develop an understanding of it. And I wasn't able to do that, so because you're just having to read and just take all the information in. But I didn't skip over anything, and I read about, I got to where I could read about a page a minute. So at about this pace right here, all the way down. And at first, I gotta tell you, it's a little hard to get into. It's kind of like a form of meditation in a sense. In terms of like when I first start meditating, my mind's racing and everywhere. I have trouble staying still, and I'm antsy and uncomfortable, and then I kind of just get into a groove and kind of slide into my meditation. And the same thing happened with this experience. I told myself that I needed to read 50 pages a day to get through this book this week, and I actually skipped a day. So I had to read 100 pages, and I sat down. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this done in the next couple hours. And for like the first 15 minutes, I had to stop and start a few times because I couldn't get my mind to quiet down or stay focused on what I was doing. But eventually, I just kind of got into a groove, and then I looked up, and an hour had gone by, and I had 10 more pages to go before I got to 100. So I just wanted to share that tip with you guys. If you are interested in reading a book a week for yourself as well for the next year, that speed reading tip has really helped me out. So let's go ahead and dive into the topic of the book. Brene Brown is a great author. She's an incredible lecturer. I've been following her on YouTube for a while, and so when I came across this book, I didn't even read what the topic was about. I just, Brene Brown, yep, that's probably going to be a good one. Let's go ahead and grab that. So the topic of this book is actually about shame and building resilience to shame. I thought it was just me, but it wasn't. Making the journey from what people will think to am I enough. I thought this was a really interesting book, and a couple of things about the book. So I didn't realize this until I'd started reading it, but all of the studies and research that she collected to write this book were based 100% on women's studies. So there's no male perspective of what shame is, and she explains why she took that perspective at the end of the book, because she said she wanted to write a completely different book about shame for men. I don't know if it's come out yet or not, but regardless, there were a lot of interesting things that I picked up on that resonated with me that I wanted to share with you guys. And the first was it was a saying by one of the women in this study that really resonated with me, because it was almost exactly how I feel about shame, or the things that I feel I have shame in my life over. and it was this: I don't tell anyone about the things I've gone through. I don't want them to feel sorry for me or think differently about me. It's easier to keep the past to myself. Just thinking of being blamed or judged because of my past causes me to lose my breath. And the reason why that resonated with me so much is because I've had experiences where my past has come up, and it has just immediately, I have just watched people just, their eyes glaze over and their mind go somewhere else. You know, and any opportunity of building a connection is just instantly gone. And it's a really hard thing to experience and not build up a resentment about. But here's the thing. Everybody experiences shame, and I think why it's so often swept under the rug in our culture is because it brings up these painful memories. It evokes these painful past experiences, and nobody wants to relive those experiences. And so it's easier to just avoid the problem or not talk about it. So it's created this whole level of disconnection in our culture. And the best way that she talks about in the book is to get over this, to transcend this, to build resilience to shame, is to express courage and compassion and express your vulnerability with people. And what I took away from that was, you know, obviously there's a time and a place to express vulnerability, and especially with men. I think it's a little bit different for men than it is for women. At least it has been in my experience. I think that in the generation that I've grown up in, I'm 33 years old, that it is okay for men to express vulnerability at times. But when we have courage and compassion for other people and allow them to speak their truth and get out what they need to say, to allow healing to occur and not judge them negatively. Everybody, I feel, in this life is really, more than anything else, looking to connect with other people. Nobody wants to be alone. And I think that in my experience with shame, because I have a lot of shame around my past experiences regarding addiction, and it it took a long time to rebuild the damage that I'd done, but also I don't think I ever would have gotten over that addiction unless I had healed from the internal shame that I'd put around myself. So in addition to the shame that we perceive, that we experience from other people, there's this really insidious level of internal shame that I carried around with me that affected the choices and actions of 90 to 100% of my behavior every single day. My friend died from a heroin overdose when we were 19, and I found him in his bed, and I blame myself for his death because it was my suggestion that we get high the night before. And I carried that around with me for years, for almost a decade, for over a decade. And it caused my life to spiral out of control in so many different ways. It was just a nightmare. And one of the things that I realized was, you know, when I began my journey of healing and overcoming and transcending these traumas that I'd experienced in my past, I had a strong desire to be a better person, to treat people better, to treat people the way that I wanted to be treated. But I couldn't even treat myself the way I wanted to be treated. And that's when I learned something interesting. I treated everybody externally outside of myself the exact same way that I treated myself. And I continued to do that until, well, it still continues. I treat people exactly how I treat myself. And when I realized that, I started doing the work to change myself. And I noticed something very exciting and incredible happening in my life. I started treating everybody in my life differently, and the reflection that I was receiving back from everybody started to change as well. It started to be more loving and compassionate and understanding and connected. And I realized that my internal state is creating the external perception of the reality that I have. And so I think the best thing that I took out of this book, and the one thing that I wanted to impart on all of you, the biggest thing that I learned out of this experience of learning about shame and guilt and all of that and how they show up in our lives is to overcome shame. The best way to overcome shame is to transcend it by healing internally, by changing the narrative that's playing in your mind. And I think if everybody does that, some amazing things will happen in this world. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my video today. I would encourage you to pick up a copy of this book for yourself and read it. Brene Brown is an incredible author, and I really enjoy the way she puts all of her scientific research into layman's terms and means that in ways that they are very easily understood. If you guys have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section below. I will reply. And if you like the content that I'm putting out, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And hit the notification button so you can see when my next video is coming out. I do post new content daily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you all in the next video.